In fact, there was just an article recently at the front page of the New York Times business section. The headline was, "The 37-year-olds are afraid of the 23-year-olds who work for them." The reason this is so important is that as soon as you move to a stakeholder view, now the executives are in charge of figuring out, how do we balance the needs of our customers, employees, shareholders, local community members, and so how do we do this? And we might imagine a kind of a philosopher king model, where the CEO is the wise leader taking counsel from the board, from other executives, from people at Davos or APEC. We might think about this sort of wise king approach, but you know what? It doesn't work, because in real life, it's now a battle of all against all. It's a battle for power, using social media and reputational damage as the weapon. And I talk to leaders in so many walks of life. They say it's just incredibly hard now. It's so much harder than it was even 5 years ago. So be careful what you wish for. I certainly believe that business can be a force for good, but I worry that what we've done by moving to a stakeholder model, just as we entered this peak intensity of social media polarization and Gen Z activism, we now have incoherence and a lot of really bad policies being made. I'd like to end with an alternative approach. Yes, business can be an enormous force for good, and business often is not. One way to make it better is to embrace a certain package of social goods and have businesses side with one side of the political spectrum to push those changes through. That is one model. That's what we're doing in the United States. I don't think it's working, and I think it causes a lot of resentment, a lot of backfiring, a lot of bad policies. Here's a very different approach. It starts with this great phrase from a philosopher named David Schmitz. At its best, a free market society is a game that you can only win by making other people better off. Well, how do you do that? If you're creating value, if you're creating a good or service that people want, you're making other people better off. That's why they buy from you. But as we all know, there are many ways that businesses can make money that don't make other people better off. Now, in business ethics classes, we call these the 4 market failures, the 4 main failures of a free market. So if you just reduce those, you have this almost utopia where business makes everyone better off. So the 4 are externalities. If your business imposes external costs on others, that should be stopped, and we need regulators and trade associations, but especially regulators, to prevent that from happening. Monopoly power, another way that businesses can exploit and make money without making others better off. Again, regulators help us break that up. Asymmetric information. If the company has vastly more information and can manipulate customers, then again, it's not making them better off. And lastly, exploitation of public goods, whether it's open sidewalks in cities or the environment or natural resources. So there's a lot we can do to make business be a force for good, minimizing the harm it causes incidentally or by design. So that takes intelligent regulation. It takes social pressure. It takes journalists exposing market failures. It takes trade associations trying to get ahead of things and saying, look, we want our industry to be respected and liked and treated well by regulators. So again, we care about making business a force for good. And I think we can best do that by keeping our eye on this phrase. At its best, a free market society is a game that you can only win by making other people better off. In this way, we achieve dynamism and decency, even in the age of social media and political polarization.